Yeah, that's Joey.
7-year-old Christian Casamento will tell you all about his love for hockey.
Toronto's my favorite team, and Austin Matthews is one of my favorite players.
But he didn't want to talk to us about why he's no longer allowed to play on his house league team with his friends.
His face dropped. Like, the first thing he said was, "So my coach isn't going to be my coach anymore?"
On Thursday, his parents got this email from the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association in Cambridge, saying Christian was being kicked off his team. The reason? He was seen playing somewhere else.
To send somebody an email, not offer a phone number or a call or something to explain, was where we felt helpless. Helpless for us, helpless for our son.
The league says Christian isn't allowed back on his team, can't go to the year-end banquet, and the decision is final.
Honestly thought that I was just putting him in a convenient place near our home where we could watch him play while we drink coffee.
Christian wasn't alone. At least 3 kids around Christian's age have been kicked out of the league, including Chris Walsh's daughter, who also had to give back her jersey.
She cried. She didn't want to give back her Penguins jersey, so it's hard to explain again to a 6-year-old why.
And because Walsh coaches his son's team, he's now lost his coaching privileges.
I can no longer go on the bench. I can no longer go on the practices, but I'm here doing the lineups, planning the practices. I'm taking notes in the stands.
The league says the issue lies with the other ice time being in a non-sanctioned league unaffiliated with Hockey Canada. John Thomas runs the league and says his league is insured and children are always coached, reffed, and supervised. He says this is Hockey Canada protecting a monopoly.
At a house league level for young children who are literally just trying to get extra ice time, extra hockey, simply because they love it, it was unbelievable.
An opportunity no longer available to the Maple Leafs loving Christian.
Give us some options. Tell us anything, but don't tell us our kid can't play.
As per league orders, 6-year-old Maeve Walsh gave back her Penguins jersey over the weekend. Her brother didn't like it.
Frustrated.
How come?
Because I don't know why.
Maeve has been kicked out of the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association, as has her dad, who also happens to be Jackson's coach. Today, the league is clarifying its decision, saying, like all minor hockey associations sanctioned by Hockey Canada, the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association is mandated to follow the lead of the sport's national governing body in all matters related to on- and off-ice policies. One of these policies includes penalties for playing in and supporting non-sanctioned leagues. 3 kids were caught taking part in the non-sanctioned league, including Christian Casamento.
Honestly thought that I was just putting him in a convenient place near our home where we could watch him play while we drink coffee.
Via email, last week the league said its decision was final. Today, the president says the kids can appeal the decision, so long as they quit the other league.
And they're kind of backpedaling now.
If parents of the affected players were to appeal and had to appeal to Hockey Canada, the Ontario Hockey Federation, and the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, they'd incur about $900 in fees just to get hearings.
These associated fees just seem like another slap in the face.
The Casamentos also have concerns over the cost of the appeal. It's unclear whether one or more hockey organization would be part of the appeal process. We contacted Hockey Canada for clarity, but didn't hear back. Chris Walsh is skeptical.
It's kind of an admission of guilt by signing this, by going through this whole process. Again, it feels like it's just a bash against our rights.
The league says if the parents do follow through, it will support those who choose to initiate this appeal process with Hockey Canada and will welcome back those who are successful in their appeal. So far, nobody says they'll appeal.
I don't really have an answer for that right now. I haven't done my due diligence.
Now realizing there's politics in play. John Thomas says he just wanted to offer another place to play.
I believe that we ought to have choices. Hockey is a huge sport in Canada.
He operates what's considered an outlaw hockey league. He says he started it because of client demand.
Kids are looking for extra ice. They're looking for extra development. They're looking to play hockey more often, and so we offer that choice.
Today, he says he sent this letter to the RCMP, asking them to investigate the expulsion and cost of appeal of 3 children kicked out of the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association. Thomas alleges the league has undertaken abuse of dominance under the Competition Act. So far, no response and no charges or fines.
There are lots of choices in many, many industries. Why doesn't hockey have a choice?
Clearly, the individuals who are running these organizations are putting profits ahead of this 7-year-old players.
Randy Gumbly says he represents the World Association of International Players Unions and filed a complaint with the Competition Bureau of Canada, alleging Hockey Canada, the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, the Ontario Hockey Federation, and the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association are essentially protecting a monopoly. Hockey Canada has a policy in place for outlaw leagues saying they don't abide by the hockey structure set out by Hockey Canada. Summer leagues, hockey schools, and rec leagues are fine, just not those other leagues identified as outlaws.
Hockey Canada should be proud of the work that they've done in developing hockey players, and it should be, as every Canadian, their right to choose what association or multiple associations that they want to participate in.
If the name Randy Gumbly sounds familiar, that's because he pleaded guilty to fraud involving junior hockey-aged players. He also filed a lawsuit against Hockey Canada for $3.5 million and was under a court order to not be involved with hockey until 2012.
So as far as an axe to grind, no, but I think this is the best foot forward. I learned my lesson the hard way. The charges that don't match the 25 years of the work that I accomplished in hockey.
Both Gumbly and Thomas say this is all about choice, and just like in a game, players should decide where to go with the puck. From watching the game
Yeah, that's Joey.
to back playing,
Christian is so happy. When we first told him, the look on his face was priceless.
Christian Casamento will be back on the ice as part of his team in the Hespeler Minor Hockey Association.
He almost couldn't believe it. He was like, how? How did this happen?
The league says, upon review, the non-sanctioned ice time that the 3 kicked-out kids were playing in isn't actually a league, because it's just 2 teams.
Yeah, within Hockey Canada regulations, in their definitions, a league is defined as 3 or more teams.
Tina Vittorio's son, Nico, was one of the 3 players given the boot. Like the other parents have said all along, the extra ice is just skills development.
It's the same kids that are playing against each other every week, so we had no idea that it would be an issue whatsoever.
Players were given the opportunity to appeal the expulsion, but that process would have likely cost several $100s. None of the parents went through the appeals process. The kids will get to keep their extra ice time this season. Hespeler's Parent Hockey Association says next year, the rules will be better communicated.
So we make sure that the contact in these situations is done in a more personal way.
Still, this situation stings.
It was hard to go back and just continue on like as if nothing has happened.
All of the kids will be back on their teams this weekend, playing games and rekindling friendships.
Happy. We've had all of his teammates and parents messaging us all day to say that they're really excited to see us again this weekend.
After a hockey experience that had little to do with the game.
Tara McDonald has lived every mother's worst nightmare.
The worst dreams are when you dream that she's here and everything's still great, and then you wake up and you're like, reality.
10 years ago, Victoria Stafford was raped and killed. Terry Lynn McClintock and Michael Rafferty are both serving life sentences. McDonald says their prison term doesn't compare to life without her daughter.
Certain anniversaries are worse than others. I don't know why the 10th was so hard. It's almost like a flashback as to that time. Like I won't even drive down the street that we lived on. Her birthday, her sweet 16 was tough. Her 19th was tough.
Also tough is McDonald's post-traumatic stress disorder. She avoids hammers and garbage bags, everyday items part of the court case that convicted Tori's killers.
My girlfriend was just like, wow. She's like, I can't even believe as a mother that you would have to sit there and listen to those details and those facts. And I said, you don't have a choice.
McDonald has avoided speaking publicly for years, still hurt by what some people think.
All these people are blaming me, and like my friend's grandma saying, oh, I think that mother had something to do with it. Like just blurting it out and knowing I She had no clue that I was sitting right there at her dining room table.
McDonald has tried to move on, becoming a doula to guide and support women when they give birth.
But when I'm present for a moment, like somebody having a baby, or when a sibling comes in and they see their brother or sister for the first time, it takes me back to Darren coming into the hospital room, and he's dragging this huge fake sunflower behind his back. And he climbs up on my bed with me, and he looked at his sister, just watching them. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the most complete moment of my life.
McDonald also finds joy in her son's accomplishments. Darren Stafford is studying out west and runs his own online company. Earlier this year, McDonald says Darren opened up on social media.
He says, I'm doing this for us, Victoria. Everything I do for the both of us.
Finding strength from the past to push through the pain and remember the life of a beloved child.
She loved soccer, she loved dance, she loved church. Like, she loved anything where she was able to wear out some of the unbelievable amounts of energy that she had.
My friend Mandy.
Family breakfasts aren't the same for the Howletts. This is the diner where Erin Howlett once worked before she was murdered 6 years ago.
I feel for the people who lose family members to cancer or car accidents, even like natural causes. But this is a totally different monster.
The Howletts not wanting to minimize the grief of others.
It's difficult to go into a group session and feel like you're taking away from somebody else's healing because you're kind of the elephant in the room as the loved one of a victim of a violent crime.
Howlett was killed in 2013. A Kitchener jury couldn't decide if her former lover and accused killer Michael Ball did it, and a mistrial was declared. Earlier this year, Ball's second trial was held in St. Catharines, 2 hours away. A friend told the Howletts about a charity that helps families impacted by homicide, paying for travel, hotels, and meals.
She said that they might be able to help, and then it was victim services out of St. Catharines that kind of liaised, are getting together.
That charity, Tim's Tribute, put together by Tim Bosma's wife, Charlene. Bosma is the Ancaster man killed by Dylan Millard and Mark Smitch while on a test drive of the pickup truck he was trying to sell. Tim's Tribute not only offers financial help through its division, The Healing Tree, there's a 12-week counseling service for those whose loved ones have been murdered and a monthly group meeting.
There's funds being taken away from groups that would help victims and families of crimes. So there's a void that's been created there that Tim's Tribute is helping to fill.
But Tim's Tribute is based out of Hamilton, and the Howletts believe it's needed badly throughout Ontario and Canada.
We're obviously not the only people out there that have gone through this.
I think it's very important to try and expand Tim's Tribute, and God willing, when we're ready, it'd be great to help them establish a presence in Waterloo region.
He's going to need that chart shortly.
Charlene Bosma runs a charity helping families impacted by murder.
It's the trauma that happens. It's not just losing someone, it's the complicated grief that comes with a homicide.
Her husband's death became one of Canada's most notorious homicide cases in recent memory. Tim Bosma was murdered in 2013, killed in Waterloo region by Dylan Millard and Mark Smitch over a pickup truck he was selling online. When the case went to trial in 2016, the trauma and grief Charlene felt years earlier came flooding back.
It can be a very re-victimizing experience.
What's worse, grim details heard in court tend to overshadow happier times.
And it can really drag you down, that what you think of when you think of your loved one is how they died. You almost forget how to think of them as the person that they were and how they lived and what we loved about them.
Through Tim's Tribute, she, along with others, help families of homicide victims remember the life of their loved ones and admits it's therapeutic when she gets to remember why Tim loved to smile.
Tim had a wonderful sense of humor. He was a joker, but he was generous and helpful. He was completely family oriented. What we do is we continue that generosity and the caring.
Tim's tribute offers financial and counseling support and fully understands their clients' needs, especially if it's a high-profile case.
I read so many negative things about Tim and I. One of the best pieces of advice we can give to families: stay off Facebook, stay off social media, because you will read so much garbage out there from people who they know nothing, but they think they do.
For Charlene, Tim's tribute is bittersweet.
You know, in this way, there's a legacy for him that lives on, and it's a positive thing. And for our daughter, there's something good that came from what happened to Daddy.
Tim's tribute mainly helps families in Ontario and hopes to one day help families across Canada. They're holding their first fundraising gala this Saturday. Alex?
Tonight, all aboard.
Isn't it a beautiful spring morning?
Trains roll in Waterloo Region.
It's a history-making day.
Crunching the numbers for a multi-million-dollar system.
It'll be paid off over a period of time.
How much you've forked out so far.
I think that was money well spent.
And is it paying off?
So it cost us a lot, but we're here today and thankful for it.
Light rail lightning rod.
I'm fed up with being treated this way.
The controversy.
We're calling for a referendum.
And journey.
We need to be brave, we need to be courageous.
That divided a community. LRT service is finally running in Waterloo Region. The first train left the Fairview Mall station at 11:40, making the spring 2019 launch date with 14 minutes to spare. 17 years after the first debate, light rail transit is now an option for commuters in Waterloo and Kitchener.
It's been a long and sometimes challenging process to get to today's milestone.
Many said it wouldn't work. But 3 municipal elections later, largely fought on this project, demonstrated the community at large did not agree with the naysayers.
An opening ceremony was held this morning in Kitchener. Politicians, regional staff, and train enthusiasts gathered for the launch. The line at that stop started forming at 7:30 a.m. And here's a live look at the LRT line from the tower cam outside our studios. This is a view of King Street at the Grand River Hospital stop. Thousands of people are expected to ride the rails this weekend. Service is free for the next 11 days. Good evening and welcome to a special edition of CTV News at 6. This is an historic day in Waterloo Region. A vision 17 years in the making, now a reality. And residents are getting a first-hand look at millions of their tax dollars at work. CTV's Rosie Del Campo was the first person on a vehicle in Conestoga Mall today. She is riding along that route now. Rosie, what are passengers saying about their first ride?
So far, Megan, passengers have been saying that the ride has been a smooth one. A lot of people have been boarding and getting off throughout the day. It's been pretty steady. I got to tell you, I'm lucky to have a seat right now because it's been standing room only all day. A lot of people say they came out to the launch and to check out Ion because they wanted to be part of local history. The wait is over.
I was waiting so long for this to come.
Passengers board Ion for the first time.
It's a history-making day for Kitchener Waterloo.
Some crossing the national border to be a part of local history.
I rode the last streetcars in New York City back in the 1940s and 50s. And it would be nice to ride the first of something.
The Ion picking up passengers at 19 stops.
We have onboard Wi-Fi. It's the best thing ever.
Along 19 kilometers of track.
How would you describe it?
Very good. Very good. It's nice. It rides fast. It's going to go places.
You can just sit and relax and look out these wide spans of windows and get a totally different vantage point than what you would normally do if you were driving your own vehicle and paying attention to the road.
The region of Waterloo says it expects 27,000 people to use light rail transit this year, and that number is expected to double over the next 12 years.
I'm very likely to do 80% of my travel with LRT. It's convenient to where I live.
Wouldn't change that much. Wouldn't become a regular user. I'd have to change my whole lifestyle to become a regular user.
Regular transit user or not, the first ride a memorable one for many.
Seeing the development in areas where you don't normally drive, it just blows me away.
So LRT will be running on a holiday schedule tonight until 8 o'clock, and over the weekend from noon until 8, you can ride for free over the next 10 days as part of the celebration of the launch of LRT. After that, it's $3.25. Right now, we've come to a stop at the Conestoga Mall station, but we'll be heading all the way in the direction of Fairview Park Mall, so we'll be checking in with you throughout the 6 o'clock hour. For now, it's back to you, Megan.
All right, Rosie Del Campo on the rails today. Thanks, Rosie. Well, the light rail transit route runs 19 kilometers and offers 19 stops. It starts at Conestoga Mall in Waterloo, passing the University District before snaking through the downtown cores of both Waterloo and Kitchener. It then ends at Fairway Road in the south. And the region says ION service will run approximately every 8 minutes during rush hour and every 10 to 15 minutes the rest of the day. Trains start at 5 a.m. and run until 1 a.m. daily. Fare for one person is $3.25. Well, this is the most expensive project in Waterloo Region's history. 30 years from now, taxpayers will have paid $1.9 billion to build and run ION. So how much have you spent already? CTV's Max Work has been going over all of these numbers for us. And Max, everyone in Waterloo Region pays taxes, except when it comes to ION.
Yeah, and that's an important point, Megan. ION is funded solely by taxpayers in Cambridge, Kitchener, and here in Waterloo, not by homeowners in the townships. Still, the amount we expected to pay is not what we're paying today. An ambitious target.
About a 1% per year tax rate increase each year for the next 7 years.
A $16 a year ask from the region back in 2011. By the year 2018, that ask was expected to grow to $112 a year for taxpayers.
We're not building this for today, we're building it for the future.
The predicted cost for taxpayers didn't hit the mark exactly. Here's a breakdown of what it's meant for the average urban property tax bill. Each year, incrementally more. And after 7 years of planning, you've paid approximately $597 for ION before boarding. The councillor originally pushing the 1% pledge says the amount asked should still be seen as prudent.
The burden, I think, on the taxpayer has not been that large when you consider the infrastructure that they were able to get.
Roads repaired, utilities moved, and of course the line and the trains. Regional officials suggested a public-private partnership, or P3, would be the best way to keep construction costs at $818 million. Of which the region was on the hook for $243 million.
To go a P3 route, you'd be better able to manage risk and more successfully deliver a project.
The project came with some interesting spends. Land expropriations were forecasted, primarily in the $4.4 million legal fee. So too was a $75,000 charge to figure out a name.
I think they could have come up with something a little better.
But ION's budget bombshell came in December 2017. An extra $50 million was needed to finish.
We would acknowledge that at the outset, in the original $818 million, we went with an extremely small construction contingency.
The $50 million more would be needed to cover bombardier delays and construction overruns, like the King Street grade separation, when a dome was needed for 4 months.
I know there's a lot have been said about the dome, but quite frankly, the fact that they were able to keep on building throughout the winter, I think that was money well spent.
The province ended up picking up half the $50 million overrun.
When we knew that we were looking at some additional costs, We sat down with our counterparts at the province, and the province agreed to provide some additional funding.
Bombardier's $92 million contract became the biggest burden remaining. The region will be able to recoup some of the costs associated with the delays. The rest will likely have to come through litigation, not budgeted for in Ion.
The world is litigious. People do not voluntarily pay penalties. They will always litigate them first and then pay them later.
Regional officials say the $135 you're paying this year isn't the actual number, though. The same year they were building the financing, the province was picking up the tab for something else. So they say they put about $65 worth of savings into Ion.
The fact that the province came in and uploaded some of those costs was something that we felt we could pass on to taxpayers.
But that was the previous government, with the current one looking for municipalities to pick up more bills.
Please do not board this train.
Not less. And this isn't the end of the ride for what you're spending. Grand Link is owed about $11 million for roughly the next 28 years. And officials say Ion's budget will need to flex based on how many people ride it. Megan.
Okay, Max Wark reporting tonight. Thanks, Max. Well, this is what Regional Council looked like in 2011 when it approved that $818 million funding plan to bring light rail transit to the region in 2 phases. Fast forward 8 years to today, and of the 16 people on that council, only 4 remain in office. Well, getting to today hasn't been an easy feat. This project has been almost 2 decades in the making and the source of heated debate. Let's take a look back at the ride we've all been on for the last 17 years.
An historic night at Council, as plans to build a light rail transit system in Waterloo Region move forward.
I believe that I was elected to lead, not to follow.
That was June 15th, 2011. But debate about trains began almost a decade earlier.
If we don't move quickly, we'll miss our opportunity.
The sticking point, even back then, was the price tag. But councillors pursued big plans anyways, hoping the provincial and federal governments would foot the bill.
We really have to take that step now if we want to prevent ourselves looking like the GTA 25 years down the road.
Actual funding figures weren't delivered until 2010.
The province of Ontario is committing $300 million.
We will cover 1/3 of eligible costs.
The almost $250 million shortfall created a deep divide, just in time for the municipal election.
I would not pay that much.
Obviously be left behind if we don't.
But less than a year later, a plan to build trains between Waterloo and Kitchener got the green light. And Cambridge, some say, got the cold shoulder.
I am the mayor of the 2nd largest city in this region, and I'm fed up with being treated this way, and so are my citizens.
The decision had been made, but the controversy clearly wasn't over. Lawsuits and a Stop the LRT petition called for community revolt.
It's going to make it look Rim Park as a pocket change.
Council pushed on. A name was picked. Bombardier got on board, and construction kicked off. The momentum too strong for opponents to derail, even though they tried again.
We're calling for a referendum.
With the 2014 election settled, construction became the new focus of complaints.
When you do try to take a shortcut, you're stuck in another traffic zone.
The curation of Corduroy Road didn't help.
Pave over and move on.
But the traffic delays would be nothing compared to the train delays.
We have some issues with the way Bombardier has been dealing with our contract.
A fall 2017 start date was pushed back to early 2018.
It is a major disappointment.
Then pushed again.
I'm sure a lot of citizens and businesses are disappointed.
And again.
Disappointing or disappointed? It's more than just slightly disappointing.
The trains were coming, just not fast enough.
Spring of 2019.
There you go. Now get on the train.
Finally, a deadline that held true.
Well, the LRT has transformed Kitchener and Waterloo. The Twin Cities look different. There are new buildings, new businesses, and new living spaces. Along the route, developers were on board with the project early, and it's been a financial windfall for the local economy. CTV's Nicole Lampa is looking into this angle for us tonight. And Nicole, the region says the economic impact from the LRT is more than $3 billion. What are business owners telling you?
Megan, we spoke with one business owner who has supported the LRT from day one, but Tyson James admits he has taken a massive financial hit. Along the LRT route on Charles Street is Cafe Pyrus, where the daily grind is more optimistic now that LRT trains are up and running.
Yeah, we've cheered when it goes by. I think it's going to be something that makes the city better. And, we're seeing some of the growth of that and the speculation from it, which is great. But at the same time, we've lost so much because of it.
Owner Tyson James says sales slipped by 60% during construction, setting back his own expansion plans.
We would have a shiny new place, we would have other locations, we're incredibly popular, but the losses from that construction time were huge.
In Uptown Waterloo,
are you guys going to go ride the LRT when it opens?
Catherine O'Donoghue feels fortunate. She moved her shop to King Street 3 months ago, missing years of construction.
I've known a few business owners in the Uptown area before the LRT construction began, and sadly, they didn't make it through. So we feel very fortunate to have come in at the time that we did. We feel like it will bring a lot of traffic into the Uptown area.
This particular space is...
Commercial real estate agents say the LRT has boosted property prices along the route.
Pre-LRT, the prevailing market rate would have been probably in the $12 to $14 per square foot range. Now we're seeing $16 to the $18 per square foot range for similar spaces.
The region says the project has attracted billions of dollars in investments. New condo developments have added 13,000 units and 4 million square feet in commercial properties.
The new number is $3.282 billion of investment along the corridor.
Back at the cafe, James says those gains are great, but they came at a cost.
At the darkest times when we were pretty much ready to close, those customers helped save us. And that's why we're still here today, and we're so grateful for them.
Now, James believes the region needs to improve the way it communicates with businesses impacted by LRT construction, which isn't over. Keep in mind the expansion into Cambridge is in the works and a preferred route has been chosen. And once the project is approved, it could cost taxpayers another $1 billion. Megan.
All right. Thanks very much, Nicole. And we have much more LRT coverage online at ctvnewskitchener.ca. You'll find information about where and how to buy a ticket, as well as a look behind the scenes at how the entire system works, plus a photo gallery of our community showing just how much has changed. And we are going to turn to a developing story now. A trainer at African Lion Safari in Cambridge has been airlifted to hospital after being attacked by an elephant. CTV's Leanne Evans is outside the park tonight. Leanne, what do we know about the trainer's injuries at this point?
Well, Megan, he was seriously hurt. Orange Air Ambulance transported the man in his 30s to Hamilton General Hospital at around 3:20 this afternoon. Hamilton police arrived at the park about an hour earlier. The general manager of African Lion Safari confirming there was an incident this afternoon involving an elephant and an employee, saying this is the first attack at the park this year. It's not the first time something of this nature has happened, though. In November 1989, elephant handler Omar Norton was crushed to death by a bull elephant named Tusco. He was attacked while trying to break up a fight between two of the beasts. And most recently, in 1992, a 14-year-old trainer was attacked while conducting a routine part of the safari's elephant show. He was lucky to survive. Online, the African Lion Safari says they maintain one of the most successful conservation programs for Asian elephants in North America. The park is home to 16 of the endangered species. The Ministry of Labor has been called in to investigate. In a statement, they tell CTV it was reported that a worker was attacked by an elephant causing injuries. An inspector has been assigned to investigate. The investigation is ongoing. One family who was inside the park today shocked to hear about the incident.
While we were in the park, we saw an orange helicopter flying around, I guess looking for a landing spot. And then when we decided to go again, and we saw the ambulance and the helicopter had landed, and there was someone going in into the helicopter, which we were very worried about.
Again, the trainer in his 30s was airlifted to Hamilton General Hospital with serious injuries, and the Ministry of Labor has taken over this investigation. Megan.
Okay, Leanne Evans outside African Lion Safari tonight. Thanks, Leanne. Outrage from the families of the victims. Today, a London judge found Kirsten Bomberry not guilty on 3 counts of being an accessory after the fact to murder. All 3 victims from 6 nations. CTV's Daryl Morris is in our newsroom with the latest on this story tonight. Daryl, Bomberry admitted to hiding murder weapons. So why did the judge find her not guilty?
Megan, Bomberry's state of mind played an important role in his decision. The judge accepting the 36-year-old was scared for her own life, something the victims' families don't buy. Many of them in tears when the words "not guilty" were said in court.
A judge agreed with the defense that Kirsten Bomberry was in self-preservation mode the night Melissa Miller, Alan Porter, and Michael Jamieson were killed.
Unbelievable, they let her go, unbelievable.
The families of the 3 murder victims are outraged.
They were her friends and she watched them get killed and walked away and she gets off like... I don't understand it. I really don't understand it.
During Bomberry's trial, the judge heard the murders happened in Bomberry's living room at her home on 6 Nations, and that Bomberry was a drug dealer at the time. Miller, who was pregnant, was stabbed to death. So was Alan Porter. Michael Jamieson was fatally shot. A friend of the victims says Bomberry is not welcomed back at 6 Nations.
Why should we want someone like that to come around in our community? You know, we have to worry about the other safety of everybody else. Why should she be back in our community?
During the trial, the judge heard Bomberry cleaned up her home and trailer by ripping up floors and burning furniture. She also hid the knives and the shotgun, and then later buried them in a field in 6 Nations. Justice Peter Hawken ruled the accused did not offer assistance to the killings. The judge agreeing with the defense. Bomberry was fearful that night after witnessing the killings, saying she hid them so the knife and gun wouldn't be used on her. That was her state of mind.
He accepted that it didn't happen for the intention of helping the accused murderers get away with the murder.
The bodies of the victims were found near Oneida Nations of the Thames in early November. Court heard they were in the back of a stolen pickup truck, tied up, wrapped in blankets, and covered by a tent.
Very disappointed in the court systems. How did they let her off? Like, they were killed at her house.
5 others have been charged in this case. 2 men are charged with accessory after the fact. 3 others are charged with murder. Those charges have not yet gone to trial. Megan.
Okay, thanks very much, Daryl. One last trip has become a costly misadventure for a local family. A terminally ill woman from Kitchener went on a trip to the Bahamas. She says it was on her bucket list, but she got sick, needing a hospital stay and an air ambulance to bring her home. Her family now faced with the bills. CTV's Heather Senerin is following this story tonight. And Heather, those bills added up to more than $50,000.
Megan, the family paid their ambulance bill up front. That was more than $20,000, but other costs remain, making this a cautionary tale for those who want to travel but can't get insurance.
And did you get to try
Shirley Duff, given about a year to live after she was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer that spread to her brain, liver, lymph nodes, and bones. So she started checking things off her bucket list, starting with a family vacation.
something special with my kids to give them, you know, a really nice memory.
It was supposed to be our nice little last family get-together.
It started off great, swimming with the dolphins in Florida, before boarding a cruise ship to the Bahamas. Duff got sick before the ship sailed, but thought it was just a rough day. It wasn't.
So I was very incoherent by the time I got to ER in Nassau.
What we thought was constipation, but turned out to be an infection from her catheter being blocked up. So they put her on antibiotics.
Duff ending up in hospital, leaving her family with overwhelming bills.
Financially insurmountable.
We had to empty out our accounts to pay them.
Duff unable to purchase health insurance due to being terminally ill.
Even though I have that prognosis and the cancer has actually been well maintained.
Then things got worse. Duff was deemed unfit to fly back home commercially.
I did text my friend and said, I'm not sure I'm going to make the flight home.
Her family took the flight. For almost a week, Duff was stuck in the Bahamas alone.
You get afraid. You're all alone in a foreign place you've never been before.
Taking an air ambulance back to Waterloo Region this week, the airlift $22,000 US. The hospital bill more than $25,000 US.
And having to ask for help was a hard thing to do. but I can't do it alone.
An online fundraising campaign to help cover costs has already reached more than $13,000.
So our family's feeling very blessed, very loved that everyone is donating.
There's too many pre-existing conditions.
Duff saying this was a risk she was willing to take to create a memory with her family before it was too late.
And so now that she's home, we have to come together again.
Not the memory they wanted, but something that has brought them closer together.
Duff was admitted to Grand River Hospital today. She's getting her blocked catheter checked and also getting a chest x-ray for a possible chest infection. Megan?
A scary situation. Thanks, Heather. A sunrise ceremony was held in Kitchener this morning to mark the start of summer, and it's also National Indigenous Peoples Day. CTV's Shannon Bradbury is in our newsroom with more on this tonight. And Shannon, the event started very early this morning.
Yes, Megan, a solstice sunrise ceremony started at 6 o'clock this morning in Kitchener. Organizers of the event say it's an opportunity to teach others about their unique culture.
Celebrating the cultures and contributions of Indigenous people.
Sun's shining and we're doing the sunrise ceremony this morning.
Starting the day with the solstice sunrise ceremony, welcoming the entire community.
In order for us and everybody else to move forward, get to know each other, it's all about relationship. And that relationship is important, and this is one way to have that type of relationship.
At the Kitchener Market, the next generation learning about important traditions.
We're Haudenosaunee from Six Nations, and today I have 3 of my children with me. My son will be singing for us today, and my 2 daughters will be dancing. Honored and proud that they are able to identify themselves openly. When I was younger, even when my children were younger, you didn't hear a lot about Indigenous people. And so I think it's great that now we got young students learning about the riches of our cultures.
Kelly Fran Davis says she's seen progress, but there's still more work to be done.
Definitely my kids are not free of racism at all, unfortunately. I'm hoping my grandkids or great-grandkids maybe.
This event, planned by students at Eastwood Collegiate Institute, a chance for them to learn about the culture and help teach the younger generation.
It's very interesting. It's something that not many people get the opportunity to learn about, and something that is very important to learn because there's a big program going, a big movement with reconciliation. An attempt at reconciliation to try and more or less fix things that need to be fixed and build bridges with 2 communities that have been separated for a long time.
There's a prophecy that we have that's, I was told when I was little, is one day our Indigenous voice will be heard, and it will be through the arts.
And through the arts, Indigenous people continue to celebrate their culture and educate others.
Indigenous Peoples Day is marked across the country on the first day of summer. Some of the events are continuing this evening. Guelph is hosting a celebration with a traditional drum circle, vendors, and live music. Megan?
Okay, thanks, Shannon. And still to come on CTV News, riding the rails. We're heading back to Rosie Del Campo later in the show for a look at the sights and sounds on board the LRT. Well, it has been a big day in Waterloo Region, the official launch of light rail transit, and transit users are finally seeing $250 million of their tax dollars at work. CTV's Rosie Del Campo has been riding the Ion throughout the hour and really throughout the day. Rosie, you've been talking to so many passengers. What's the consensus here?
So many passengers, Megan, of all ages. They're all really curious. They wanted to see how their tax dollars are being put to work. And so far, they have described their very first ride on the Ion as smooth. I did notice some of the digital alerts telling us what stop is coming up haven't been working. So the driver or someone has been announcing those throughout this trip. But so far, it's been smooth. Joining me now are Jake and Mike. We just pulled into the Fairview Park Mall station. Where are you headed tonight?
Back to Conestoga.
Yeah, back to Conestoga, and then we're just going to take it to our friend's house in Uptown again.
So you both came from Guelph to check out the official launch of light rail transit. What do you think so far?
I think it's really great. It's nice to see some innovation happening in the region.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been following it ever since I was 16 years old. So it's amazing to finally be on it the first day and see it, and I'm very impressed. It's great.
Well, thank you both. 17 years in the making, people coming out to see what it's like and what it's like to ride light rail transit. It's a 45-minute ride between Fairview Park Mall and Conestoga Mall, and you can ride for free over the next 10 days. Megan.
All right, and we'll let you ride on back to the station. Thanks so much, Rosie. Time to see now what we're working on for 11:30. CTV's Alex Pinto is in our newsroom. Alex.
Well, Megan, we continue to follow a developing story we have been following throughout the hour. A trainer remains in serious condition after being attacked by an elephant at the African Lion Safari this afternoon. The man in his 30s was airlifted to hospital in Hamilton, and the Ministry of Labor has assigned an investigator to the case. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you the latest at 11:30. Megan.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Take care.